Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you're watching this broadcast from. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy, and thank you all so much for joining us today. We are going to be live for about 50 to 55 minutes today. And if you're new to the broadcast, let me just explain how this broadcast works. We start off, first of all, the broadcast is based around Hinduism, and we basically start off with a little video that's got a focus topic. Today's topic I will share with you is basically how to handle superstitions. And then from there, we'll have a little discussion around that focus topic video. And then we will take your questions live on air. You can post your questions in the comments area on YouTube or Facebook. Both are at facebook.com/Hindu Academy or youtube.com/Hindu Academy. So without any further delay, let me just get started with the focus video for the day, and then we'll get around to discussing a few things around it. Enjoy the video.
Much for a very inspiring talk. Something you mentioned in passing very quickly was Vivekananda having found a lot of superstitious beliefs and practices going on. I find in my experience in this country, we find a lot of that happening now. So how do we actually get through Vivekananda's message to the masses or the mass Hindus to get out of the superstitious mode?
You see, the Indians or the Hindus I interact with in the United Kingdom are far more enlightened and far more challenging and questioning and not easily fobbed off or easily bought out with superstition. But in India, I struggle. There's so much superstition going around, and do you know what is the worst thing? Because the Hindus are generally so guileless and they fall in love with anything that's to do with religion. They fall in love. So they are easily taken for a ride. And because Hinduism is an open system, it's open to abuse. There are thousands of, not hundreds, thousands of individuals in India who are riding the back of Hinduism for their own personal benefit. Thousands. And I see them sometimes on TV screens, and their own audience is looking so lovingly at them, saying, there's no spirituality. And this guy's an idiot. Really, they're real nuts in the system. When you look at the message, you say, are you serious? There's some guy who's talking about science, and I think he'll fail GCSE physics. And he's talking about, spirit, you've got this positive spirit, positive energy and negative energy. I said, what the heck, what is this? Never heard stuff like that. So there are all this kind of nonsense, all this nonsense parading as Hinduism or on the back of Hinduism. I'm struggling. Do you know, my friends, what is my aim? These YouTube clips I'm preparing, I want them to enter the Indian system because that hopefully they're as rational as possible. Religions are a bit tricky things anyway, but they're as rational or commonsensical as possible. So at least it will remove a lot of fluff, a lot of superstition at the moment it is in a way destroying the dignity and the integrity of Hinduism in India. I'm struggling. Guys like you can help me out, because when I do this kind of talks, I tell people, if you like it, please share it with other people in India. Share it with your friends in India. Share it. In fact, now I'm advertising saying that, look, I'm looking for individuals throughout India who will promote this kind of rational vision of Hinduism. Look, it doesn't come from me, by the way, let me be very clear. Everything I said that made sense to you, know for sure came from Vivekananda. I'm just a mouthpiece. In fact, I sometimes say, it's like an empty tin can rattling in front of a majestic, kind of huge powerhouse. So I'm just rattling. I'm being blessed. I'm really kind of charged up because I'm standing near real powerhouse. And this material has to enter the Indian system. And only people, youngsters can help me out. I mean, I can do only so much. The hair are falling out now. I can only do so much, but you chaps can help me out. Present this idea, plug them into the Indian system. Very important.
So there you have it. That's the focus topic of the day today. I'm going to pass it over to the team, Manish Bhai and Vijay Bhai, to carry on with a little bit more in-depth discussion around this video. Manish Bhai, over to you. Vijay Bhai, you're muted.
Thank you, Nishit Bhai. Welcome, viewers. Thanks for joining us for this Hinduism Q&A question and answer sessions. Please do send us your questions. Today's focus topic is superstition. So we'll be looking at various superstitions that we Indians have, some maybe in Western countries as well. And Vijay Bhai will try and answer his questions, and it'd be good to have this discussion to see where we stand and whether how much of a rationality can help with this. So Vijay Bhai, regarding superstitions, superstitions, is in all the societies, you see in Western civilizations. How do they arise, and do they have any purpose behind them?
I think superstition has been a part of history for very long of humanity. It's not just Hinduism. I mean, if you look at even the medieval Christian, I mean, in the West, medieval West, they have believed in miracles. They believe that demons walk among us. They believe in idea of the saints among us. So there's so many different kinds of beliefs. I think that there's a multitude of reasons why that's the case. One case, of course, in many ways, when people have kind of say not enough knowledge of particular fact or some rational idea, then sometimes religious people use special means to try and make them do something by saying that, oh, by the way, if you do this, this will happen to you. For example, we say like the idea of, when there's eclipse, we say everybody should stay at home, clean their house, everything gets polluted. And that's one way by making sure everybody doesn't go out and look at the sun. Because even the sun is covered, and you look at it, that's the worst scenario, because in that case, you look at you can see the corona and the UV rays are still coming to you, right? And you can go blind. So that is why we say, okay, look, in that case, superstition uses the means to make things better. But in other ways, superstition can also be used because people have this kind of lack of confidence of what will happen in my life in the future. Then they use all these different kind of gurus to help them to find what will happen. They're very curious about what's going to happen in the future for them. So every human has some sort of lacking. And sometimes superstition can be used, or something, astrology can be used to try and kind of help them. And sometimes superstition just mainly used as a ploy by a lot of people to make money out of guileless people, as the video mentioned. And that is, I think, for Hindus, because as we are very open to spirituality and all kinds of ideas we accept kind of willingly, then sometimes there's a risk, because it's a price Hinduism pays for being a democracy, because it's so open, and when people say things, then we pick up. And the very interesting thing is, I've noticed this in a lot of among Hindus. Again, as Jay mentioned, we love religion so much that why talk to recent religious leaders? Even listen to the educationists, the rational people. I'll give you an example. When I was in Gujarat, I think many years ago, and they're trying to stop this spreading of good eating, and the government never got through. But once the chief minister at that time, Modi, said, "Look, you gurus go and say something," everybody listens to them. Yes. So I think the gurus have a big responsibility to try and remove this nonsense and superstition, which causes all kinds of tremendous damage. But yeah, there's a very mild reasons why we have this kind of superstition around. Yeah.
Wonderful answer, Vijay Bhai. Let's look at some of the superstitions that are generally common in our Indian society. So one thing we say is, evil eye thing, that somebody cast an evil eye, najar lag jati hai, koi nahi najar lagi hai. What is the reason? Is there any logic behind this?
I think again there is no logic, but I think the idea again is this, that especially if it's a very young child, if you want to protect the child from, say, some sort of disease or some sort of impact of environment society, if you say if a child goes to see somebody stranger, he'll get an evil eye. If he goes there, somebody he doesn't know, somebody who doesn't know doji, he'll get an evil eye. That is one way of protecting a child, and then now it becomes really becomes a superstitious idea eventually. So sometimes there are good reasons behind it, but sometimes it's now it's misused. But in this day and age, when we have a lot of knowledge and people have good understanding of science, rationality, I think we should now try and stop these ideas of all these different kind of najar lagi kai or superstition. It really doesn't help society anymore, and actually you waste so much time by doing all this stuff. So yes, I think that's another one. I think it doesn't really make sense. How can somebody put an evil eye on you, right? If somebody is evil. We don't know. We can never judge somebody just by looking at somebody merely. But I think sometimes also some people are vilified deliberately for no fault of their own, for whatever reason. Maybe it's got some disability, or maybe it's from a different community or a lower kind of caste or something, and that is totally wrong. So I think sometimes this superstition is carried on, and it causes tremendous damage to our Hindu society. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay bhai. So in some family, when it was common to have joint families, and you would have brothers living together and big family, and maybe there may be some jealous people, and they may harm in some ways to little children. Would that be something behind that, or and some people would have bad intentions, let's say, to do
Yeah,
harm?
absolutely. I mean, a lot of the superstition, as I said, were used, you're right, to protect sometimes children, but then it becomes a norm, and that's where the problem comes. Yes.
Mhm.
So I think for young children, I've seen a lot. They make them wear these black strings and all this kind of stuff to protect them from different. It's just, I think when you look at a black string of a child, it reminds you, oh, by the way, I better look after this child. He could be vulnerable. Because sometimes you obviously often forget. So some people do this. But as I said, it's something that's a remnant of a very, very long history of all humanity, not just Hinduism. And we still have it in this day and age. I think we should be, as Jay mentioned, we should be more rational, and especially youth today, we should try and remove this kind of superstition, because all it does, it actually wastes our time. It makes us think in a different angle where we should be getting knowledge, where we becoming more spiritual. So all these things kind of distract us from our true goal. So I think as time moves on, we should, all of us, we should work to remove all this kind of superstition. Especially in India, I can see so much of this happening. It's really sad, and a lot of these gurus actually promote this. That's a bit worrying. Yeah.
Wonderful that answer there, Vijay bhai. So staying with this, sometimes they say if you have this lemon or chili and put them on in front of your door, then this bad spirit stay away. And I think in evil eye solution, one solution is believe that you get this chilies and you rotate it around person head and then burn it. And they say if the chili, if it smells bad, if it doesn't smell bad, then the person didn't have the evil eye. And things like that. How do we deal with this?
I think that is total I would say nonsense. Sorry to say, but I mean, how can a plant? Okay, I think because the lemon is very very kattu, as they call it, yeah, very sour, and the chili is very very spicy. Together they make a very powerful combination. So somehow that is totally out of context. Those two have been linked to an issue with something to do with somebody's superstition, somebody's bad luck. I mean, that there is no link at all. But yeah, again, this is a remnant of all kinds of stuff. And the sad part is people actually pay for this kind of ceremonies, yeah, which is something I think we should try and get away from. But yeah, it's not a nice situation. I think we Hindus should try and move away from this kind of. So yeah, so that's not a good one. I think that's a nonsensical one. Yeah.
Thank you for that great answer there, Vijay bhai. One thing you mentioned is many of these gurus, they actually promote superstitions and this kind of things. So can we challenge, because people are sometimes very afraid if they have considered someone guru, they think it's not appropriate to ask them challenging question. Why this, why that, why can't we do this or that? Can you ask and be challenging to your guru and demand answers?
Actually, you'd be surprised. The Guru Shishya Parampara of ancient Gurukul was very clear. A disciple has to serve his Guru by three things: pranam, of course, you respect; prashna, you got to ask him questions, even challenging questions, even which go head on against his teachings, and this is seva, obviously. But the prashna part is very, if you don't ask a prashna, there's no point of having a Guru, because then you're not really learning. You're just listening. That's not good. You must challenge the Guru. But having said that, I have actually heard that some gurus, and by the way, you'd be surprised, some people pay monthly direct debit to gurus, so they do puja on your behalf to remove any future bad luck to you. And people pay, you'd be surprised. And they also give you a mantra, monthly mantra, right? You do this mantra now, and by the way, you have to go direct debit for a nice small fee of 1,000 rupees every month. And then you are sorted, right? These kind of gurus, there are many of those gurus. Please stay away from such gurus. Yeah, those are not genuine gurus. Look, a guru is somebody who will give you confidence and show you the pathway to spirituality, regardless of obstacles. You just go. That's a true guru. A guru who tells you, makes you feel less able or less vulnerable, or makes you feel that you're lesser than what you are. That is not a guru. Yeah. So you have to be very careful of these gurus. You want a guru who says, nothing will come in your way for spirit, nothing will come in your progress. Ignore all this nonsense. That's the kind of guru you want. But yeah, you have to be very careful. There are so many who are making money out of guideless people. Please, please stay away from this kind of gurus. Yeah.
Wonderful. So Vijay Bhai, so many of these superstitions, we understand they came about from a long time ago. At that time, life was very different than the modern times.
Yes.
And so the practice was meant to help people for a certain reason. And it doesn't have any context in today's time. So until we know the scientific reason of an activity, we think of it as a superstition. But when we know the scientific reason behind it, then we feel proud about it. So how do we validate and promote the scientific reasons behind some of these practices which are becoming like superstitions?
Yeah, actually, Nishit, that's a wonderful question. I do that all the time. You'd be surprised because, when I was growing up, my mother would say, never throw anything outside the house after sunset. Yes, you always throw it tomorrow morning. And then, of course, she wouldn't tell me, but I gave a thought to myself. And I realized in the olden days when there was no lamps, only very weak lamps, what if you throw something important out by mistake? Even if you throw some sort of utensil, because they're very rare in those days, right? So you lose something. So if you look in that context, and that's how I urge all youngsters think behind. There's a reason behind think, and they say, okay, look, does it apply to this context? If it doesn't, then it's okay, ignore it. That's one reason. Never throw anything out during nighttime, right? The other one is don't eat after dark. Now, if you grow up in a tropical country, if you get dark, when things go dark, God knows what are you going to put in your mouth, right? A mosquito, anything will go. So he said, look, if you do this, it's actually bad luck. It's not good for you, or God will not be happy if you do it at night. So everybody has to finish a meal at 6 o'clock before the sun sets. So if you think like that, they say, okay, yeah, it makes sense. But does it apply today? Think for yourself. No. And that's why I think youngsters, Jay was saying, youngsters are the guys who will drive this change because they think more rationally. They don't want to get stuck in the old ways. But you're right. The other one which is interesting is, I think we discussed earlier, was the idea of, when you go to school, we say, as the exam, opened a very important exam, they say, have some yogurt. The yogurt is very good to cool your body down. Yeah. Yogurt is known for that properties. So when you give you that yogurt, it makes you feel good, right? They know what kolevan, they say, in Gujarati. And when you eat that, I know my mother used to always make sure I ate that before an exam. And then I go out and you feel good and nice and calm. So there are sometimes geographical reasons for climate, reasons for various kind of reasons why these were made into a superstitious beliefs, right? If you eat that, it's going to be good for exam results. But if you think rationally and scientifically, if you calm your body, you have less heat in your body, you less, and actually you might do better in the exam. So sometimes you're right, but what I would say is if you're superstition, break it down. Is there a logical reason? Yes. Maybe then it's good if people do it, even if you don't do it. If it's no logical reason, like the lemon thing or chili thing, they say, look, you know what, I'll stay away from that. So all youngsters, think for yourselves and always be your own master in analyzing this kind of superstition. But a very powerful question, Ishba. I agree with you. Yes.
And I am not going to take any credit for it. This was asked by Jitesh Dattani over on YouTube. But you're very right. It's always important to question the logic behind something. And a few of these superstitions come to mind, which we may think are superstitions, but actually they are meant to be for the benefit of us. So, for example, one superstition is do not come out during an eclipse. And that's to prevent you from, eye damage if you're staring at the sun. Another one I know is that when you go to the funeral after you've cremated the body, you must go and have a bath. That was because the olden times, that is for cleanliness.
Yeah.
Right? So like that, there are quite a number of other superstitions which had a reason, but they were cloaked in this manner and packaged, I would say, to make it easy to comply.
Yeah. I think that is where the ancient time, I think the gurus and acharyas outside did a very good job. So we shouldn't vilify what they did, but think in this, we should now move with the times and the context we live in. But I think they did a very good job because in olden days, sometimes we explain to some people, they won't explain. But if you say, look, it's a sin or it's a path, right? If you do this, then they say, okay, I don't know, my guru has said it. So those are gurus with very good intent that did this kind of stuff. Or like, when you say that when a child is born, for 10 days, you should not let a child mix with anybody else. And that's a very good reason. We all know why now, right? And that we should still carry on if we can. But that's if the guru says a sin, the people take it more seriously. If you say, look, it's good for a child, but you shouldn't do it. And so, a child say, I'll do it 3 days early or 4 days. I'll just let it only 6 days, 7 days. But if you put this, you need to put the idea of a sin on top, because India is like a religious country, right? Hindus love this, love for religion. No, I can't do this because it's papche, right? So it helped in those with good intent. But sometimes you carry it on today, you have to think a bit more and say, is it really necessary today? I think that's the main issue here. Yeah.
Fantastic. So sticking with this theme, Aditya Singh Raghuvanshi has asked, could you please tell me what is the core of superstitions?
I think the core of superstition again is many. It's part of history. Look, we've always had the science of the unknown because we don't know everything. So sometimes there are many reasons. One is, of course, you are lacking something. You feel, I think not lacking, but you feel you're lacking something. And you know, the world we live in, it promotes us a lot because you look at the amount of consumerism we have today. If you don't have something, oh, you don't have that computer, or you don't have that lipstick, or you don't use a special show. So you're always meant to feel to lack something. And when you're meant to feel you're lacking something, you tend to clutch at straws. And that's when you go look at the stars, horoscope, oh, you know, I'm lacking something, I'm not feeling well. So psychologically, sometimes you're put so down, you not only by others, but the society at large, the way it lives. And then you look for different angles. You say, oh, you know what, if I had a guru who could actually help me somehow feel better, then you get stuck with this. So please don't do that. No matter what situation you are in, down and out, always fight for yourself, think rationally, and be your own master. Don't try and clutch at straws, because then you're bound to be such a superstition. That's one reason. Of course, the other reason is historical. Historical reasons we have been having superstition, which made sense at one time, not today. There are some geographical reasons, as you mentioned, that if you come from a tropical country, you don't eat at night. So the myriad of reasons, not just reasons. So we shouldn't just say that, oh, it's a bad thing. Look at the history and look at the reason, analyze it in a rational manner. Then you see, okay, it's not that straightforward of why it happened and what should be the future steps you should do. So think rational. That's what I would say on that. Yeah. But it's a good question.
Amazing. And superstitions exist everywhere around the world, not only just in Hinduism or
Absolutely.
Hindu community. And it's just like, you know, in the West, they call it an urban legend or a superstition. Is variety of different things. So next question I have is from Sobhagya Bablu over on YouTube. And he's asking, can you say something about the practice of animal sacrifice? Is it totally just a superstition as well?
Look, animal sacrifice, I think, is superstition, no doubt. I tell you why it was practiced in the ancient times. For many people, they felt that just giving a sacrifice something which is not living, if you throw some rice, they feel actually it's not powerful. But something that's living, which got consciousness, like an animal, you see, they will say if sacrifice that, then it's much more powerful, which is giving up a life. Now look at that poor, see from the angle of the poor animal. Don't think from your angle. Don't be selfish. The animal has done nothing wrong and is going to lose its life. If you think in terms of reverence for life and say, look, all life is revered, then you will think twice. But yes, I mean, at some point, hundreds of animal sacrifice, there's no doubt. And actually, you'll be surprised. I know some don't agree. In the ancient Vedic scriptures, there are some also into sacrifice, but the Vedic scriptures are very, very clear. You have to do vast, elaborate ceremony to kind of limit it. So they actually done so many injunctions that it makes it very, very hard to actually sacrifice. But animal sacrifice has been part of history. It's happened throughout the ages in all communities. By and large, even in the Hindu community. But I would say that at least now it's getting better. There's less sacrifice. But that was the main reason. Sacrificing what do you call? They call it chetan, which is something which is conscious, supposed to get given you more merit. But why pick on something that's defenseless? Have you noticed when they sacrifice an animal, they sacrifice a goat or a lamb? They will never sacrifice a lion or a tiger, would they? Because of course they're scared that it'll cost their life. So there's no logical reason behind it. Yeah. So I would say please stay away from that. Do not sacrifice innocent animals. Yeah, if you can avoid it. So
Wonderful.
Good point. Yeah.
Great. So now, before I hand over back to Manish Bhai, I'd just like to do a quick shout out to some of our very regular viewers who've joined us today as well. We got Chetan. You know, you just mentioned Chetan, so it sparked my connection here. We got Chetan watching us on Facebook. We've got Tena Lakshmi. We've got Indu Day, and we've got let me see. We've got quite a few number of people on YouTube as well. Vishnu, Nadeem. We've got Charmaine, who's a regular viewer as well. Jitesh Dattani watching us from Bangalore in India. All over the world, people are watching this broadcast. So thank you so very much for contributing your questions in the comments area. Please keep them coming. I will pass them on to the team. And in the meanwhile, I'll invite Manish Bhai back to carry on with the session while I pick up more questions.
Thank you, Nishit Bhai. We continue with this question of the animal sacrifice, and we can add in meat eating as well in that one. Some people believe that if you sacrifice an animal in a religious ceremony, they will go to heaven or they will get a human birth. Is that true?
Actually, I would say that there are some ancient Hinduism is a very vast tradition. It is true that there's some very, don't forget that we have in Hinduism caters for everybody as per their level. So yes, some very ancient tribals used to do that. That if you sacrifice an animal, it gives you great merit. But by and large, I would say most acharyas of India, the great Vedanta acharyas, they're all against sacrifice. But I know in Nepal or in Garhwal hills, they will sacrifice. And also something else to mention also that there are some Hindus, when they want to eat meat, or rarely eat meat, when they do, they actually sacrifice to make a sacrifice because they understand this is a special case, right? So there are those examples as well. But I would say by and large in India, all the movements, mass majority of the movements do not accept animal sacrifice. But it was practice. We cannot deny that. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there. So staying with that, I've just remembered Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. I think he advised Surendranand Mitra, who was a drunkard, that first offer your alcohol to Mother Goddess and then drink. How does this help? Offering it to divinity before consuming.
I think the thing is that actually there's a very important point. When you offer to divinity, you think actually it's got a psychological impact on you. You know, okay, if it's alcohol, it's look, if I offer to God the goddess, then eventually I'm telling you limit it because you'll say, look, I'm just drinking every day like it's just something. When you offer it, oh, this is special. If you make something special, then you look after it better. You kind of limit it as well. You don't just drink it like water. So I think that's a special case in that case. But generally, we offer everything to God. You'd be surprised, even in the ancient times, coming back to sacrifice idea. The idea was when you do sacrifice Vedic traditions, you actually limit it because you say, look, by the if I offer it to God, I have to do all this stuff. I have to do a puja. You don't just offer God. If I want to offer alcohol to guys, okay, here, have some and I'll take the rest. No, you have to sit down, you have to pray, you have to offer it. It's because an elaborate tradition, right? You don't just go and buy something. So if say if I go to shop and buy alcohol, I have to go to the temple, I have to offer it, then you go, oh no, I have to offer it to God again. Yeah. You have to do a ceremony behind it. And that actually, funny enough, limits it, not increases it. Yeah. And the Vedic tradition has a lot of this kind of interesting thing, a lot of these, rituals. Yeah, we have to limit stuff like that. Yeah. So it's interesting idea. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there. Thanks for enlightening us there, Vijay Bhai. Staying with this, as we know, many Hindus eat meat, but Karthik K. Sarma has asked why beef is forbidden in Hinduism.
Okay. The thing is this, yes, of course, there are many reasons. One reason, of course, because the idea of avatar of Vishnu, Krishna, is very popular among Hindus. And Krishna is to love cows. So if you love cows, then of course, it's part of Hindu tradition. So we revere cows because they associate with Krishna. But more than that, I'll give you a deeper answer. As I was saying, for Hindus, or actually Indian subcontinent, the cow or the bull was the main animal for farming in the Indus Valley civilization. And look, any civilization, if you want to build a civilization, you need artisans, you need, sculptors, you need priests, right? Now, to do that, a farmer has to grow crops, food for 10 different people so they can be freed from farming and can do other professions, right? The carpentry. That's how civilization is built. So if you look at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, you see a lot of motifs of bull, cow. Why? Because don't forget, the debt we owe to the cow or the bull is something we can never repay. Because for an Indian subcontinent, the civilization was built on the back of the bull. That is why we call them Dharma Raj, if you look at it carefully, yes. And Gau Mata. Gau Mata gives birth to the bull and also gives us milk and nourishes us. So because of the bull, can you imagine if there was no bull, how would these people farm for 10 different people? Because you need a farm. To farm a large amount, you can't. If you do on your own farming, you just grow about enough to grow for yourself. If you get a cow or a bull and you farm for 100 people, those people will build cities. And so Indus Valley civilization was built on the back of the bull, which is Dharma Raj. So you can imagine why it's deeply in our psyche not to eat beef or a cow. because we owe a debt we'll never repay. By the way, it's not only for us. In the West, I know in the UK, many English people have very difficult eating horse meat. They ask why. Oh no, I can't eat horse. I love the horse. When you ask why, I just do, because the horse was used for farming in the UK. So these animals we owe a lot. We don't realize they not just have for us to consume. They have actually helped us to reach a society where we are. We owe a huge debt to these animals. We just don't know it sometimes. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. Growth Gaming has says, why don't Hinduism speaker at Speaker Corner in London? Thank you for the suggestion, Growth Gaming. We will look into this, and I'm sure Vijay Bhai and Sita Ben can participate in this Speaker Corner if we get a chance. So we'll look into that. Thank you for that suggestion. So Vijay Bhai, what we are seeing here is the use of rationality and common sense to try to understand reasoning behind these things, and we try to progress from this. How useful is rationality? And when we have so many scriptures, should we be looking in scriptures for answers, or should we be using rationality? And sometimes we could have flawed thinking. Should we be just relying on our common sense on these topics?
A very powerful question, Manish bhai. Okay, first of all, well, just to clarify something, although Hindus or actually all Indian Christians, we revere the book a lot. I mean, maybe Sikhism is a bit special, but we revere. I love the Gita, but remember, we are not a religion of the book, like in the case of Abrahamic faith. They are called the people of the book, religion of the book. We are a religion of seekers. We are actually, we are an experiential religion. So all these books, vast amount of books we have written by hundreds of acharyas, not just one, maybe even thousands of acharyas, they are all guides. So please use as much as you can out of the knowledge, use your scientific knowledge, all kinds of knowledge you should use from your guru, from the books, but always use your own intelligence, analyze the information for yourself, think for yourself. Okay, it's true that sometimes you may make a wrong decision because you don't have the broad knowledge, but always think for yourself. Is this correct? Or should be a slight variation on this? Think for yourself. That's the beauty about Hinduism. Hinduism is not a collective religion. It is an individualistic religion where it allows you the freedom of thinking for yourself. Look, although it's true we have groups, we have a lot of sectarian movements who work together. Even within those sectarian movements, you're allowed to think for yourself. And that is one of the greatest gifts we have in our religion. You'll be surprised in some other faiths which are collective based. You must follow a book without thinking. We don't have that. We're very lucky. So I would say use that. Use for yourself. Use all this knowledge. As I said, it might be skewed sometimes. You might have wrong decision, but it's okay. Yeah. But don't follow something blindly just because some book says or some guru says. You are your own master. And I'm not saying this. The Vedic scripture is saying this. Vivekananda is saying that. You are your own master. Find your own path and go for it. Yeah.
That's wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. Thanks for enlightening. So there you go, viewers. Please, 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 let's be rational. Let's use common sense, and let's try to make sense. Let's try to progress. Let's not just stay on within books. We are, as I say, Atman, and we are full of knowledge as well. So let's use our knowledge. One question from Prasant Tripathi is saying another common superstition is to not cut hair on Saturdays or certain other days, maybe Tuesday as well. Is there any reasoning behind this?
Okay, I think there is no reasoning behind, but I tell you what, it's there's nothing wrong with the superstition. Although I don't believe in it. When I was growing up, I was always told by my mother that on Saturdays is the day of Hanuman, I should not cut hair, I should not shave on Saturdays. And then I asked her, and she goes, actually, she doesn't understand why. And I think the thing is this: the idea is when you love a deity, you want to give up something for them. Look, I know there's some tradition we said, look, I will not shave my son's head until I've gone to Tirupati Balaji. That's okay. What you're saying, what you're doing there is saying, look, I want to offer something, a sacrifice to certain deity on a certain day because I love that sacrifice. That is okay, but don't put a superstition angle or a sin or something like a sin. If somebody doesn't do it, it's not a sin. But if you do it because you revere a particular deity and you want to offer a sacrifice, and that's okay too. I know some people fast on Thursdays. All that is perfectly fine. But think of in terms of a sacrifice because you love God or you love to find the truth. Don't vilify somebody because he doesn't do it. That's the tricky part. Yeah? Don't do that. Do it for yourself because it helps you discipline and love for deity. That's all I would say on that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay. Well, you are really enlightening us in a very wonderful manner. Vishnu C is asked, what is awareness? How can we create awareness? A tricky question for you, Vijay.
Okay. Look, the idea of self-awareness, is not something. If philosophers have been debating this for God knows how many years, it reminds me of Descartes, who goes, "I think, therefore I am." Right? But the idea of self-awareness is basically to realize that for Hindus, is to realize just is a material. You're not just a matter. You just eat, drinks, and burp, right? And you die. For us, self-awareness is realize that you're something more than the body. That's the Hindu idea. And look, have you noticed something? All living things tend to fight against the forces of nature. If you look at sand, when wind blows, it just blows with the wind, right? Sand follows nature. But if you're a human being, you will fight it. Same with any plant, it will fight. The things that fight against the elements to still thrive and succeed, those are things that are self-aware. Doesn't matter what you are. It's a living I love the word Chetan. I love that name Chetan, yes. Is you Chetna, you got consciousness in you. So self-aware is to make sure that you're aware that you're more than the body. You'll be surprised. You may think, it's so trivial, everybody knows them. Quite often we forget that. We just enjoy life, go to the bar, drink, eat, burp, work, and we forget. We never really analyze that. Why are we self-aware? What is the beauty about that? And then you work inwards. And we have numerous examples, we're lucky in Hindu tradition. We've got so many enlightened beings who are wonderful examples on what the self-awareness is. It's something immensely powerful, something a million times powerful than something, some lowly pleasure like eating a cake. And that is what you're going to try and discover. So tricky question. I don't know the 100% answer, but I know there's something I'm going to find out to the ultimate goal, which is the Atman. Yeah, good question.
Great answer there, Vijay Bhai. We got Harsh Chorgade asking, are Ram and Krishna real gods or a myth? Since many Hindus also say that. Jai Bhai has already answered his Harsh, and he's saying they are historical figures. We consider Ramayana and Mahabharata are a historical text, but we accept that there are many exaggerations in text. So there are many things in them that which we cannot accept as literal truth. So that's fine. Those things you can accept as not literal truth and maybe considered as exaggeration. But overall, we believe, as Jai Bhai is saying, that Ram and Krishna is considered historical figures. One question from Balaji is, explain Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Vijay Bhai?
Okay, I'm not sure of the full term, right? So I'm going to find out a bit more on that. But yeah, the Tantric tradition is one tradition in India, which is basically the idea of divinity in many different ways. Some are not, some are orthodox, fit, and some are novel ways. So to practice Tantra, I think sometimes Tantra is kind of also confused with other kinds of yoga as well, so be careful. But the idea of Tantra, Hinduism accepts there are many ways to explore spirituality. Some are orthodox, usually like, bhakti mark, basic yoga, basic praying. Some are different. Some people go to deep kind of meditation. Some do a lot of fasting. So all this kind of come in kind of Tantra tradition. So the idea of Vigyan is again the knowledge of that. But I haven't gone that deep into it. But yes, we'll try and find a bit more on that topic. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we are almost, I would say, 2/3 of the way into our program for today. And I just do like a quick public service announcement. We have so many new viewers who've joined us today. So if you're new and you're wondering how to connect with us, this is our website, hindu-academy.com. Over here, you can see some of the resources. The first of which is this code. If you scan it, you'll be able to submit your question to us by video. You can also enroll in our free Hinduism course over here. And you can also download our ebooks, which are available for free through here. Now, if you go to the course, you can see we almost have 7,000 people. My goal is to get to 10,000 by summer. So I am relying on you to help me share and enroll people into this free course for Hinduism. So sticking on with the number of questions that we've got, Before I go ahead with the questions, I just saw some interesting comments here on Facebook. So Indu Day says, so well said that Hinduism is an experiential religion, very individualized support by many Gyanis and Rishis with their knowledge. And we have a feedback from Ellie saying, very good response, Vijay, reference not eating beef. We've got Chetan saying, thank you. Kapadia Lalman has got a question. So the question from Kapadia Lalman is, when you move into a new home, people say put things in a certain way so you don't get negative energy. Now in New York, the apartments are very small and these things may not be able to be changed so easily. So how does it affect whether you do things or not? So I know there's the Indian thing of Vastu Shastra and it's another different thing. But there is also some other things people are recommended to do when you move into a new house. And what happens if you don't do that?
Okay, a very good question. You know, the Vastu Shastra, I'll pick on that first. I actually was analyzing once. You know, in India, have you noticed that the houses in India have a central courtyard? So what you have when you go in the front door, you'll have some maybe 2 rooms in the front, then you go courtyard, and then you go rooms round the courtyard. And there's a reason behind it. Actually, it's a very good reason. You'll be surprised. Because you know, in the UK where I live, the houses are not Vastu at all. They're opposite. All the windows point outwards, not inwards. Look, I'll give you an example. In India, in the ancient times, all the activity happened in the middle of the courtyard. When you cut when you cut vegetables, when you do havan, yagna, you know what the beauty about that is? It creates a social kind of event. Everything in the center of the house, activities happen in the center of the house. It's very, very good socially. I'll give you some examples. Supposing you have a row with somebody in your family. If you're going to pass the courtyard every time, you can't just run in your room and hide. You have to pass the courtyard. At some point, you're going to talk to that person, right? You can't avoid them. So the idea of the courtyard, a center of activity, was a very beautiful thing in Vastu. We don't build houses like that. But that was the main idea. Like, you know, havans, anything. Or even when you do a joint kind of, reading of a sermon, using the courtyard. And these are all the kind of techniques of Vastu, also how it frame points. Now, regarding doing things in the house in a particular order, it's got a very deep psychological impact. I mean, I don't do it, but I tell you what, if you do it, it helps you psychologically. To feel, you know, a house is a big thing. Look, they said the biggest possession a person has is his house. And second possession he has, second biggest is his vehicle. In the olden days, it was a horse or a chariot, and now it's a car. These are 2 big possessions you have. So whenever you buy a house, you want to psychologically prepare for yourself. You want to give it a kind of a reverent status because you want to look after the house because it gives you shelter. So you might do things in a particular way. You might do a puja. You must say, look, I must look things properly. I must put things properly here, not everywhere. Because look, if you don't look after a house, after some time, it'll just, the law of thermodynamics makes your second law, which is, entropy. It'll run down and they basically get, derelict. So all these activities in the house is to make the house in nice order, create a nice ambient atmosphere so you can live in a good area and also have it spiritually. So I think the Vastu and all these shastras, they've got deep psyche in there. By making you do all these things is to create an environment and ambience which helps you live in a healthy way, also makes you progress spiritually. So not all things make sense, but again, if you analyze rationally, not all these things make sense. Like the idea of courtyard in the middle of the house, they are beautiful ideas. They may not be practical today because of the way houses are built, because of quick construction. But think for yourself and see, look, these things make sense. These are good, these are not. So if you are one of those persons who likes to go in the house and you also arrange everything nicely, I must do that, I must do puja, please do it if it helps you psychologically look after your house and create a nice ambient atmosphere for you. But again, it varies for everybody as per their taste. Yeah.
Absolutely true. So yes, we have a question from Null, and it's sort of an observation and a question. So he's saying, as predicted by the great Swami Vivekananda, are we heading towards a spiritual era, or have we crossed this spiritual era because there seems to be a big move towards materialism that is taking over the society, whether it's Eastern or Western or otherwise?
Okay, my take is this. I mean, I agree with Swami Vivekananda. I'll tell you why. Because it is true at the moment, sometimes you're going through a very, very materialist phase. A couple of things we don't realize. One thing, although we have a lot of wars, if you look at the history of the world, we had far more destruction and wars. Entire society, this is now getting better. We are now in an age of almost a new enlightenment. where everybody's studying to a high degree, going to university, getting knowledge. We live in a world where people have now slowly having ambitions for different things. Have you noticed now? I've noticed nowadays in my community, at least now things are changing. If somebody goes after money, people look down on them, which is a good thing. If somebody goes after knowledge, we say, oh, look, this guy is a knowledgeable person. So that is now changing, I think, because everybody wants to get the children more educated. At one time, it was the case that when I was very young, people say, oh, marry this, daughter of this boy, he's very rich, she'll do well. Or marry your son or daughter of this person because they're really wealthy. But nowadays, if you notice, they say, look, marry this person because he's got more knowledge, he's got a better degree. Have you noticed that? So the world is changing. They will not look at, oh, he's got a very big mansion. They say, no, I don't want a big mansion. I want somebody who's knowledgeable. So the world is changing now. And I think I agree with you that as we get more educated, society progresses in the future, I think we are coming to an age where people value knowledge and idea of spirit, exploring of the unknown. Like, as if you look at these Star Wars, Star Trek, I think hopefully we reach that age where people are thirst for knowledge, thirst for the unknown, rather than chasing about material things or money. And I think it'll change slowly because also something else, we are much more prosperous society now. Everybody has 2 meals, everybody has a decent kind of roof on their house, and we're getting there. As we get more and more, I think the value of money will be lost. And I think that's a good thing. But let's see where we go. Yeah.
Fantastic. So Startup Sanatan is saying that how can we say or presume or even conclude something is a superstition since we don't know the exact context or the scenario in which they were told to, this thing started off. Well, I would say superstition is basically a widely held but irrational belief in some supernatural influence, something that will lead to a good or bad luck. So, you see very prevalent with sports people. They'll say, I'll wear my lucky cap, or I'll have my lucky locket, or something. I'll touch this before I play my game. They believe in that, and that is not a rational belief. They believe in something that is not logical. But that is what we call is superstition. So you're absolutely right. You can't say something is right or wrong, but what I can say is it is superstition if there's no logical reason to it. And that's what I would say. So Adityan is asking, how can we find scientific miracles in religious scriptures? Is it proof of God?
Okay, this is something I think I would urge our viewers to stay away from, because quite often I've noticed that we get one scientific fact and we match it to a religious book, and say, oh, now look, we have vindicated our religious book is proven scientifically because this scientific fact matches some sort of words, or sometimes we torture them, the words, we twist the words and text torture and say, look, their scientific fact matches the fact in the religion. Now our book is authenticated by science, and from then on, anything that's scientific doesn't match with the book, science is wrong. We play that game a lot, right? Don't play that game. Look, the thing is, the religious books are a way to find the truth. Even science is the same thing. They're trying to find the truth in a scientific manner. Look, ultimately, they're trying to find as well, what is the cause of the universe? What is the cause of consciousness? So ultimately, all these activities you do with this from religious mode, from a scientific mode, from a yoga mode, ultimately they have the same goal, is to find the truth. But if you start saying that, my book has always been right, but now because I've got the scientific, voila, it matches now. Look, my book is the perfect book. Don't play that game. We Hindus don't accept that, because again, as I said, we are not the religion of a book, right? We don't have to play that game. But as I said, the books are still very important because we revere them. Look, I can say of Gita. I love the Gita. Gita is so inspiring to me. It makes so much sense to me. But if I start playing this game, it loses the plot. So everything has got own place in society, and think from that angle. Hindus don't have to play that game. I think we have picked some bad habits from the Abrahamic faith. Don't play that game. Yeah, look at all these different angles to find the truth.
Fabulous. Now, I've got two questions which I'm going to roll into one. One is from Sudhanshu, and his question was, why does every region have their own version of God? And another question was from the Bulldozertron, which is, if we have one God, which is Parabrahman, then how did all the other gods originate in Hinduism? Now, if I just share one thing, is that everybody wants to relate to God in their own version. That's why we have every different region having their own preference. But I'll let Vijay answer that. To me, that's the logical answer.
It's a very nice question. I'll give you the answer which Jay Bhai used to give. Wonderful answer. He was asked same question. Look, again, I don't have to compare much, but in this case, it makes sense. Yeah. In the Abrahamic faith, it is believed that God makes man in his own image. So basically, we are the image of God sitting on a throne with two hands, whatever. But Hindus believe that man makes God in his own image to relate to him better. So, for example, if I was growing up in, say, in Australia, yeah, for me, God would be something which belongs to, like the special mountain we have. So depending which area you come from, which society you come from, you think of God in that particular manner. If I was say, in the Arctic region, then perhaps I would see God as the God of the seas, because that makes sense to me. So depending on your context of where you live, geographical, historical, traditional, you would see the God in your particular in your particular slant, and that's okay too, because everybody goes up differently. But you see, Hinduism accepts that by the way, look, our senses limit us. We have five senses that limit us. As you try and transcend those five senses, it becomes difficult. So it always makes sense that the one Paramatman, which was mentioned by Bulldozer, which is the ultimate reality, we ourselves want to make the infinite Paramatma into a finite kind of object. Why? Because finite Pratima or Pratik doesn't have to be an image, it could be an artifact. Why? Because we can use our senses to relate to this infinite in a finite mode. And that's okay. We are not worshipping idols. Remember that. We don't believe that idols got power, but it gives us a focal point to the infinite. So we use a finite object to link to the infinite. And that is the beauty about Hindu. That's why we accept that the Indian Americans, they use the totem pole. Hey, it's fine. But that's how they see God, because whatever reason. For the African tradition, they use the idea of, trance, which is fine too. And for others, like who use yoga meditation, that's fine too. Ultimate goal is to find the Paramatman. And we accept that there are many ways to it. There is nothing wrong with that. But that's the beauty about it. That's why we're so lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Vijay Bhai, about the question of why every region has their own version of God. Would you be able to share with the viewers the way Jay Bhai used to talk about my mother is the best. So when
Yes.
you've got this conversation between two different children,
Yeah. That's a
if,
wonderful story. Yeah. I think Jay Bai used to do a lot for young children, because to explain the idea of pluralism was very hard for young children. So he said, look, it's about two boys fighting in the park. And then I think one brings a cake for his friend, and he tries to go, your cake is as hard as a rock. My mother makes much better cake than yours. And they start fighting for it, yes? And they're fighting. My mother is the best. My mother is best. And this happens in real life, you'll be surprised. And then eventually the teacher came out, what's this scuffle happening? And the teacher goes, he's saying my mother is better than his mother. How dare he? I don't agree with that. Not nice, right? And he goes, look, let's calm down. Just say that your mother is best for you, and your mother is best for you. And say, oh yeah, that's true. Then they're both happy. And this is a very, very simple story, but a very powerful message. Look at what's happening in the Middle East. Why are there so much fights? Yeah, because they believe that my mother is better for you as well. Come on, it doesn't work like that. Yeah. So this is a very, very powerful story, simple story, but a very, very powerful message. And I think Hindus should try and use that message to explain to others as well. When they come and convert to you, say the same thing. Look, fine, you stay with yours. Let me stay with mine. Thank you. Right? Like that. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. Mrudul was asking, what is the best book to understand Advaita Vedanta?
There are many books, I would say, but the one I have read is Vivek Chudamani by Shankaracharya. But I think there's a lot of, if you look at the Bhashyas as well, if you look at the Shankar Bhashya on, say, the Gita or the Upanishads, that also give you a slant on Advaita Vedanta. So there are many. I think if you look at the Upanishads themselves, I would say they are more towards Advaita, whereas the Gita, I would say perhaps more towards Advaita. But anyway, look at the commentaries by the great Acharya. That was one way to give you an understanding. But again, after these commentaries, think for yourself and make your own judgment on it. That's what I would say. Yeah. Vivek Churaman is one of the good ones. Yeah.
Wonderful answer there, Vijay Bhai. And there are many lectures by Swami Sarvapriyananda of Ramakrishna Mission, and they're quite good. And you may want to view that. He's done quite hour-long lectures on Advaita Vedanta, so they may be good source as well if you look onto YouTube videos. Next question from Masoom. is asking which type of Raj Yoga is used by Swami Vivekananda, Kriya Yoga, Patanjali Yoga, or Dhyan Yoga, or else?
What I can say is that Swami Vivekananda was an expert in all these kind of yogas, but I personally love his commentary on the Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Is one of the best I've seen. If you look at his complete works, Vivekananda, which I have behind them in my shelf somewhere, his commentary is one of the best I've seen. Is on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. But I would say that he was a kind of master in all these different kind of yogic techniques, not just one. Yeah.
Fabulous. So, folks, we are almost at 1 hour into the broadcast for today, and I'd like to begin wrapping up. So, just to say a quick word of thanks to everybody who has joined us on the call today. Your participation is very much appreciated, and we love the comments. We love the way you've shared all the superstitions you believe in, shared the questions that you are curious and want to get answered. It's been a great session for me to learn and grow along with you. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to end with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. This is the quote I've got, which is, never say no, never say I cannot, for you are infinite. All the power is within you. You can do anything. And that's just a positive, uplifting message that I want to leave you with as you go through the rest of your week ahead. And from me and the team here at Hindu Academy, we've got Manish Bhai, we've got Vijay Bhai. Sita Ben is not in with us today. We wish to say thank you, and we'll see you